Welcome back. We are the Brothers Mahoney. I am Michael.
And I'm James.
And tonight we are discussing Rogue, the 6th episode of season 14 of Doctor Who, which came out just yesterday, I guess June 8th, for the UK. It was written by Kate Herron and Briony Redman, which is the first time either one of these two have worked on a Doctor Who related project. I think Kate Herron, I did a little brief background look. She had done some work with Sax Ad, which was, of course, a show that Gatwa was involved with, or is involved with. So I partially imagine that's why she came over to do this. I'm not sure what Rodman's background is, but it's, I think, one of the first episodes written by, you can call them new people, since I think The Haunting of the Villa Diodati, which was one of the better episodes of what would have been like season 12.
I think it would have been season 12, yes.
Yeah, because 13 was Flux. Yeah, so season 12. So that's sort of interesting. First episode this season not written by either Moffat or Russell T Davies. So nice change of pace.
Although you might as well say it was written by Moffat because, for this, Rogue seems like a carbon copy of Captain Jack in a lot of ways, but I guess we'll talk about that later. But before we discuss the character of Rogue, the plot of this story is as follows. The Doctor and Ruby land in 1813, where guests at the Duchess's party are being murdered, and a mysterious bounty hunter called Rogue is about to change the Doctor's life forever. And, I mean, they can say that, but if the Doctor got over the bloody time-worn the genocide of his species, he can probably get over this guy he might have spent, 2 hours with? Maybe.
Yeah, talk about throwing River Song under the bus.
Throwing River Song under the bus, throwing whatever type of relationship they had with Yas under the bus, throwing Rose Talo under the bus.
They didn't even know who Yas was. So it's
Yeah, to
okay.
be fair, I'm pretty sure she didn't actually love Yas, she just cared about her, which is fine.
I guess. Yeah, this was certainly, I think, an interesting episode. I don't think it was a bad one. I had an okay time with it. Plot was sort of decent. Doctor and Ruby, as James said, they land in 1813. There's a big, like a costume, wasn't a costume ball, but like a big ball in this like fancy rich mansion type thing. There was a lot of references throughout the episode to Bridgerton, which it might be a very popular reference for the show you mentioned, but neither James nor I had any idea what it was.
I just see people on Twitter, oh, it's Bridgerton, oh, they mentioned Bridgerton, I'm like, the fuck's Bridgerton?
Yeah, so I looked up, apparently it's a Netflix series, which is apparently really popular. I guess some Netflix series, some of them are completely forgettable, but this one's, I guess, really good. I think it's also possibly based on some novels, so I don't know. But apparently Bridgerton's a big thing. Don't know anything about it other than the fact it's a Netflix series. And probably like a historical romance type thing, I guess. I don't know.
I would suppose it probably takes place same time period. Oh, and also, just for the record, if you're existing and you want to watch Bridgerton, go pirate it because Netflix sucks. Just find on some side. Official Brothers Mahoney recommendation. Pirate if you can.
Yeah, but going past the Bridgerton thing, naturally the episode had sort of a classy feel to it.
The cold open felt very season 2 with season 3 to me.
Yeah, it's sort of fun. There's these aliens that sort of steal people's skin. It's sort of, I guess, I'm not exactly sure the best way to describe it, but they sort of take the body and possess it as their own, jumping body from body. So someone might start out as a maid if they chose the wrong body to begin with, but they jump up to a duchess once they get her alone. It's fun, and almost sort of like almost a Slovene way, actually.
Yeah, and also when they do this body jumping, they leave the old body behind and kind of desiccated, just dead.
Yeah, no, it's not really a subtle thing. Like, cause it's like a giant electrical storm. That theoretically, I think people would notice more often, but I guess maybe they just thought lightning was bad around those times.
Yeah, I guess they figured nobody would notice at the times they did it. I'm not quite sure how they expected that to stay hidden forever, but maybe they were concerned about that.
And this species seems to be sort of like an avian-ish species. I think they were what child is.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a boring name, but
yeah. So they had avian features, beaks and the like, interesting eyes. They had some character to them. apparently they came here primarily just to cosplay. That was really a big reveal or anything, just I guess what they'd be doing.
They didn't have any huge invasion plot. They just wanted to basically have fun, it looked like. Now, granted, the way they wanted to have fun was they're just going to cosplay Bridgerton or whatever. I guess they have Netflix subscriptions where they come from. And then they are going to move up and go to start cosplaying as royalty. One of them wanted to be the queen or the king or whatever. And then they're going to cosplay a World War, it looked like. They were so excited because they're getting ready for gunpowder. And they just they're going on the world to cosplay. And they just, for them, that's fun. It's not on the world is the goal. It's just, it will be the result of the goal of having fun. So that was kind of interesting. It was different anyway. Certainly just see the Daleks gather around and cosplaying. Well, I guess technically you do when they are people's servants.
Oh boy. Yeah, I guess that's true.
I am your servant.
I do like the hesitation, that just sells it.
Yeah, no, you knew that they didn't want to say that, but I guess they make it work for a little bit. Mike and I have not actually seen The Evil of the Daleks yet. We do have the DVD. It's a Blu-ray, I don't even remember. Point is, we have it, and we will watch it at some point. It might take a while. I know they also played with that in Victory of the Daleks as well, and the Doctor did not like it then.
Yeah, but I feel like it does like a lot of things connected to the Daleks, aside from all Rusty. But I guess we'll get to him.
I really do not remember Rusty.
Hey, we'll see when we see, I guess. The main focus of this episode seems to be the Doctor and his growing interest in what seems to be like an alien bounty hunter. See, this bounty hunter knows that this species is on this planet. She's trying to find them. He suspects the Doctor is a member of this species. In fact, he even drags him to his ship. Not that the Doctor needed to be dragged, he went quite willingly. Because, see, the Doctor has what seems to be quite an attraction to this guy. And it's actually worth mentioning. This individual, by the name of Rogue, was played by a Jonathan Groff, who I don't particularly know. But he had a generically solid look to him. He certainly had some swagger. I appreciate it.
I wasn't really buying him at the beginning of the episode, but he grew on me towards the end. Once he actually started getting a bit more personality, once he started opening up a little bit to the Doctor. Although even as late as halfway through, I was wondering if he was lying about everything, and it's just going to be a long con. Well, it looked like he was being honest enough.
Yeah, and con or not, he certainly did, I guess that's what they do, but he certainly seemed somewhat interested in the Doctor himself. This is the first time, I feel like, in a little bit that we've seen the Doctor legitimately romantically interested in someone. Like, that's not really a thing. I guess this is one of the things I wanted to spend a little time to talk about, but that's not really a thing that we've seen the Doctor do until pretty much the movie from 96. We did see, I guess, elements, you could argue, the first Doctor and the Aztecs, I think, with what's her name. But I think that's probably more just a kinship of spirit than it was any type of romantic entanglement.
And even if it was romantic entanglement, it was way back in the day. And certainly the 5th Doctor, 4th Doctor, 6th Doctor, not on the minds, at least on screen. Maybe the audios play with that a bit. I don't know. We haven't listened to a lot of those. And that's fair. But on screen, at least, absolutely no concern for such things. I'm sure the 7th Doctor would rather topple civilizations than he would try to find companionship on a romantic level.
Just the idea of the 7th Doctor putting their move on Ace. It's like, the fuck?
Whoa! I'm not saying Ace, Jesus!
I think no matter what, it just doesn't seem in character. And you could even argue with the 8th Doctor that for him, I mean, he didn't know who he was for like majority of that movie. So the fact that he grew attached to like pretty much the only woman who knew anything about him, I don't know, it sort of makes sense. It doesn't necessarily cleanse the palate because I don't know, throwing in romantic anguish with the Doctor, I just don't care for it. Especially I think they overdid it with Rose and how they treated Martha. Even Amy trying to throw herself at the Doctor in season 5.
I mean, to be fair, that's Amy wanting to be romantic with the Doctor.
Yeah, I mean,
the Doctor having romantic inclinations towards Amy.
Matt Smith's Doctor generally was that type of guy, aside from even
Clara.
Mr. Riversound, who's more awkward than anything. That's just how Matt Smith's Doctor was.
Oh yeah, but also with Claire, he was that way a bit.
Yeah, that's true.
That was more pronounced with the 12th Doctor. I forgot Claire when going through earlier, but it was so last with Claire more than once. It seemed very obvious. So we can blame the Americans, and we are American, alas, for the 1996 movie that introduced romance as a thing the Doctor did. To be fair, the 8th Doctor's a rather suave Doctor, so I kind of get that from him. And as Michael said earlier, he had just regenerated. He didn't know who he was. There are reasons. But then Russell T Davies, give credit where credit is due. This is all he did when he was so around the first time around. As Michael said, Rose, who the Doctor got attached with very quickly, very closely. Well, okay, not as quickly as in Rogue, because there were some romantic things kind of between Rose and the 9th Doctor, but it really picked up when he was the 10th Doctor. So we had a whole season for that to grow, season and a half. But then with Martha, who had a unrequited crush/love for the Doctor, and the Doctor's kind of horrible through all of that season. That's going to be fun to rewatch. Some people might not remember, but the 10th Doctor, as fun as he is to watch in action, he can be a complete dick. And he doesn't mean to be, he just can be. I think it's part of how prideful he is. And that's just, David Tennant is a joy to behold as the 10th Doctor. And then, of course, the last main companion, Dana, had to come out right in the second appearance and say, no romance here, just want to be friends. And then they go and just be friends, and it works out pretty well.
The Doctor wanted to mate.
You want to mate? Yeah, I love Dana so much. She's always good. Such good chemistry, but no. So it's not surprising that Russell T Davies brought back some romance for this Doctor. There's been absolutely no romance that I've seen. Maybe other people have seen something I haven't. That's fine. Absolutely no romance or romantic angles between the Doctor and Ruby, which is nice. But then, of course, we get romance here with somebody who's around for one episode. Maybe the pop-up later. I'm so big fan, this already has 12 seasons planned. I guess we should not talk around it. My brother and I are both straight males. We're not bi. And I know there's a lot of people, especially in the bi community and the gay community, who appreciate seeing the Doctor as a openly bi character and it being shown on screen. Because, of course, there was a couple of lines with David Tennant. Oh, Isaac Newton was attractive. Or with Ncuti Gatwa earlier this season. Oh, well, with Ricky. He said Ricky was hot, which I also thought was kind of strange then. So there is a large portion of the community who appreciates seeing on screen just the Doctor and Rogue connect like this. And that's fine, and I'm happy they feel validated. And I'm not going to complain about it on that level. I'm not going to like any romance that happens this quickly over the course of one episode. I'm not much of a believer in love at first sight. And the Doctor's been around for literally maybe even millions of years, depending on how you want to count.
Yeah, and just as soon as he sees Rogue, it's immediately going for it. It was sort of impressive how quickly he was attracted to him.
Like, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. This Doctor, out of any of the Doctors, does seem like one that will do that. But very early on in the episode, yes, Rogue is very similar to me to Captain Jack, especially during the scene in the spaceship. Just the way he was talking, the way that he phrased his sentences reminded me exactly of Captain Jack. And I was actually very worried for a moment there was going to be a reveal. But there wasn't. That reveal didn't come. I did say in an earlier episode when we were discussing Captain Jack's first appearance in the empty child the Doctor dances, I forgave John Bowman for his sins, and I would like him to be brought back into the fold for Doctor Who. I would really appreciate that. But I am not in control of that. So I would strongly oppose a Captain Jack recasting, for the record. But not only did Rogue feel like Captain Jack, even early on in the episode, the Doctor was feeling like Captain Jack. Because again, I'm not used to seeing the Doctor being this openly flirty. I'm just not used to it. I suppose it works for a Doctor who was rehabbed from all of the wounds of the Time War, and he's on kind of a blank slate, and he's extremely fun laughing.
It also might make sense, given the events of the last episode, just trying to de-stress a bit.
Yeah, this is probably true. Granted, there were no direct references to the last episode events that happened, but at the end of this, I did really like the end, where after what happened, the Doctor is obviously depressed about it, but he's just trying to be happy-go-lucky. Hey, let's move on, let's go see the world, as this Doctor always does. And he actually got, this is what the season's been lacking, and people have been talking about it recently. We got a nice Doctor Ruby moment where they're standing around and talking about what happened. It's funny that this discussion really popped off after last episode, and we finally get it in this episode. Great timing on that part, I suppose. And that was a really nice moment between the two, and I actually really appreciated seeing that moment.
Yeah, it's just nice to see a slow moment where Ruby's like, hey, just let's hug and try to get your emotions out. Let's not just move on and try to forget this. Just try to deal with it for a few seconds. And yeah, that was nice to see. And also nice to see, and not necessarily expected, at least from us, but there was another appearance of Susan Trist in a somewhat trolly way, I would say.
Yeah, no, they got this done at the beginning of the episode pretty quickly, and I thought it worked rather well. One, I thought the beginning of the episode with Ruby and the Doctor at this ball was actually just really fun. They're just dancing, they're just having fun. Again, like, this Doctor doesn't really seem like he's such an adventurer. He just wants to have fun in the universe, which I kind of appreciate, because the Doctor doesn't always need to get into these life or death situations. Or granted, this became one, but he's just looking for fun. And he found it for a bit here, and that's nice. And he found love as well. Can never forget that. But Ruby's just looking at the portrait on the wall, and there's a very obvious portrait of a woman who was the mother of the Duchess's husband.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact connection to the Duchess, but she's just some like really regal looking woman.
I'm pretty sure it was the stepmother, because he mentioned that you can still feel the judgment in her eyes. It was pretty amusing. The actress was actually pretty funny out throughout, the Duchess. But yeah, so Ruby notices, hey, that's Susan Trist. And she asks, because she wants to know, hey, who is that? And the Duchess explains, and it doesn't really answer anything. It doesn't help Ruby find anything out. But she does notice it, and I would suppose, we never saw it happen, but I would suppose he talks to the Doctor about it afterward. Oh, by the way, I saw that woman again. I suppose hopefully we're going to get some explanations next episode, or maybe they're saving for the actual second part, but really looking forward to the next couple of weeks, because this has me extremely intrigued, and I'm not sure at all what this revelation is going to be.
Yeah, and we mentioned last episode that we weren't as interested in Rogue just because we're so curious about some of the answers that the season's been teasing us with, like the whole mystery behind Susan Trist's character, so on and so forth. And naturally, it looks like we're going to be getting some of that this upcoming episode, which certainly you would hope for. I'm assuming they're going to probably spread out some mystery throughout both the first and second part, so should be fun. But that said, Rogue was still a decent episode. I think this, I guess for me, the whole romance angle between the Doctor and Rogue, it just seems so quick. I guess that's just the way love is for some people. And it's just, I don't want to say it came out of nowhere, because this Doctor's always been a little more, I don't know what the right word is, flirtatious, experimental.
What do you mean, babes?
Yeah, he certainly has a style to him. And I really did like seeing his interactions with Rogue. I thought they worked well together. In fact, it's a pretty good scene in which they're dancing together. They're intentionally trying to cause some scandal. And they're dancing together, Doctor, a black guy, and we have Rogue, this white guy, just doing a romantic dance in 1813 England. And you can see all the other couples dancing, like staring at them, and people to the side like, oh my, what are they doing, and stuff like that. And I thought that scene was quite nice. It was, I think, a pretty good scene. That probably, in my personal opinion, one of the highlights of the episode, aside from this other scene in the end, but we'll talk about that a bit later. But that dancing scene I thought was pretty nice.
As much as I don't really like the love at first sight romance, the chemistry was really good between the two. Like, that's undeniable. I'm not one of those people who is anti-gay in any way, or one of those right-wing lunatics.
Yeah, it's actually worth mentioning that just because there's some people out there who are like, oh my god, the show's become woke. Even though I'm not wild about the romance angle, I'm okay with it, just if it pisses them off, because fuck them. Like, they're just, I just can't stand the whole, and it's been happening for a while now, but the whole, oh, the show's gone woke. Like, just...
Watch the Sunmakers, then tell me about the show going woke.
Yeah, that type of commentary, I don't
abide it.
Yeah, it's just not me. But yeah, just the fact that they're probably pissed at the episode make me enjoy it just a little more.
I mean, that's true, and they can dislike how they want, but Sudi Gatwa and Jonathan Groff had really good chemistry. They worked really well together, which is why I really hope Rogue's not just a one-off. I hope he comes back maybe next season. Maybe that'll be too soon. Maybe a season after. I don't know, but they have got to get him back, and I'm so big for this already has his number. How? Maybe they've already recorded 2 seasons. Who knows with Big Finish? They do seem to jump the gun a bit. They did say they're going to do a Fugitive Doctor series. I think they said they're going to do 2 of them 2 years before they even actually announced when they were coming out. So they do tend to get a bit antsy. But that scene with the Doctor was dancing with Rogue, as Michael said, a good scene, because they have good chemistry. It reminded me a lot of the Torchwood episode at the end of season 1 of the Torchwood series, Captain Jack Harkness, which went more into the details of Captain Jack and how he got his name. And that came out at the very beginning of 2007, actually. But there's a scene in that, a very heartwarming scene to me, where at the end of the episode, Captain Jack dances with a soldier right before they go off to, I think, to a battle, maybe not a battle, to a flight plan. I forget the specifics. The point is, I think the soldier was about to die, and it's 1940s, maybe 1930s late UK. Of course, openly gay people won't accept it, but Captain Jack just holds his hand out, and the two dance in front of everybody, and it's a really nice moment. And this reminded me very much of that moment. This entire episode, I'd say, was Captain Jack coded from both the Doctor and Rogue throughout all of it, and it's kind of incredible.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that's one of the strongest scenes in the episode. I say that the episode sort of focuses on the Doctor and Rogue, and it does. There's sort of a sob thing going on when Ruby's with, what's her name? I think her name is Amelie. She's like, I don't even know exactly what she is. She's like, I guess, a daughter of a wealthy guy, and she's here potentially looking for a match. I forget the exact details of who she is, but she's one of the people at this party, so you must imagine she comes from a good background. And she's played by Kamala Aiko, and I thought the conversations were really fun. Amelie has sort of like an emotional encounter with a guy she loves who can't or refuses to marry her. Ruby's trying to cheer her up, and just the banter between the two I quite enjoyed. And it almost sort of reminded me of, in a way, a little bit like how Rose spoke to what's her name from Empty Child, the Doctor Dances, but this was a little more, I don't want to say comedic, but Amelie's character is sort of fun, and the way that she'll try to use Ruby's newfangled words, and it is sort of playful.
Yeah, I am sure other companions have had to deal with this, and we see it every now and then as a small joke, but Ruby did almost accidentally bring multiple words into fruition decades before, maybe even a century. Actually, it would have been a century because this is the 1800s. Centuries before they actually would have come into existence in modern language. So you have to be kind of careful when time traveling. And I get that the show is just fun and whatnot, and that's how the show's always been. But I do wish some companions would have the wherewithal to be a bit more goddamn careful when they're just talking to people.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not like the Doctor's particularly careful most of the time, so I can see that rubbing off on the companions.
Yeah, I guess that's just not how the Doctor travels. I'll never get tired of referencing that 11th Doctor absurd quote. Because, my God, talk about not the right thing to say. At least it's honest. But yeah, so besides that, no, I thought that scene was kind of hilarious. One, I really liked the actress who played Amelie. I thought she brought a youthful exuberance to the role, to quote Eminem. I especially liked when Ruby had used the word cozy, referring to comfortable. And then she said, oh, maybe don't use that word too often, because she realizes, oh, wait, people should be using that word. And Amelie's response was replicating things Ruby had said earlier. She said, yeah, okay. She seemed so cheerful trying to use these words she'd never heard before. And it was absolutely hilarious, the look on her face and how much enjoyment she got. And just the look of horror on Ruby's face. It was like she had created a monster.
Yeah, I commented at the time that the whole, yeah, okay, reply, just the way she said it, the face she was making, that's like some meme GIF material right there. So
yeah, that needs to be an automatic GIF if it's not already.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing that online once I go back on Twitter.
But certainly not to bury one of the most interesting and perhaps content-breaking things in the entire episode, saving the best for last. Just a 10-second, maybe 15-second sequence, which got everybody confused. Or if you paid more attention to new faces better than Michael or I did, excited. There's a sequence in the spaceship of Rogue. Rogue was looking for the child that he thought there was only one. He was sorely mistaken, but he thought there was one. The Childers are shapeshifters in a way. I would describe what they do quite as shapeshifting, but I understand the need to phrase it that way. The Doctor, of course, is somebody who you could say shapeshifts. He's not Frobisher, but not many people are. And there's a sequence where Rourke has the Doctor trapped in his ship, and he's about to execute him because he's a bounty hunter. That's what he do. And he scans the Doctor, or the Doctor makes it scan him. And then it goes through the previous faces of the Doctor. And I appreciate the attention to detail because we actually saw David Tennant's face twice. One more clean-shaven for the 10th Doctor, and one a bit less clean-shaven for the 14th. I thought it was really nice that they did actually do that. But among the faces were, of course, all the expected ones. Even Troughton. Troughton was, I think, the second to last. You barely saw him, but he was there. All the main range Doctors. We saw the fugitive Doctor, of course, played by Joe Martin. And by the way, these were kind of holographic images floating around the Doctor. So it was kind of a cool sequence. We actually wrote down the Doctors or tried to as they came up, because there's one that confused us, and we discussed that, and that's the most interesting thing in the world. Also, besides the fugitive Doctor, we saw the War Doctor as well, which makes sense. He's more in line with what we understand of Doctor Who canon, honestly, than the fugitive Doctor is. There's still things about who I question. But also, one of the faces we see was this one. I'm sure we'll have it up on the screen right now. But my brother and I could, for the life of us, not place who this Doctor was. We were looking at it. We were looking again. We were thinking, it's Russell T Davies. He builds on what people before him have done. We were thinking maybe it's one of the Mobius Doctors, because we saw Chibnall decree the Mobius Doctors, and that was debated for fucking decades in the fandom, what the Mobius Doctors were.
Yeah, and naturally, that comes from the Tom Baker story, The Brains of Mobius, back in, well, I guess it would have been, I have no idea what season it was, but late 70s.
I think it would have been his second or third season.
Yeah, I think second. Pretty much almost a stereotypical Hinchcliffe episode. That one, well, we'll talk about that one at some point, but I think that one's a lot of fun. But yeah, I when I first saw that face, I'm like wondering, was that like one of the faces from The Brains of Mobius? And apparently, though, it was not.
Yeah, no, I think it was a very good guess. I'm not great at facial recognition, and the holograms kind of see through. It's not easy to tell. And even now that I've seen pictures online, I'm not the most convinced. Some people were saying it looked like Michael Jaston, or I think that's the name, or close enough, who played the Variard from, of course, the Travel Time Lord with the 6th Doctor. And there are some similarities in the face. Some were saying it looked like somebody else. I forget who they were thinking. I first thought it was a hideous picture of Christopher Eccleston, but then I saw that he was later in the rotation. And thank God, because that would have been a bad Eccleston picture. Because the face was actually, apparently, Richard E. Grant. Now, you might think, Richard E. Grant, oh, that's strange. He's not the Doctor at all. He just was the body of the Great Intelligence during the Matt Smith era. And you would be right, he played the Great Intelligence. He has such a striking profile to me. But alas, you would be mistaken to think he's not the Doctor, or wasn't a Doctor. But way back in 2003, before the revival even happened, maybe, in fact, before the revival was confirmed, I'm not sure, because this was November, December, late 2003, there was a Scream of the Sulka Flash animated 40th anniversary special 6-part story. Now, my brother and I have not seen this. This uses not the 7th Doctor, not the 8th Doctor. This uses, at the time, the 9th Doctor, played by, and the animation, now it's early 2000s Flash animation, you're going to have to give it some leeway, but played by, voiced by Richard E. Grant. And also, very fun fact, the Master appeared in this as well, and the Master was voiced by Dirk Jacobi. And also, really fun fact, there was an uncredited role of David Tennant in this as well, who had just been passing by the studio to record something else. He heard that they were recording something Doctor Who related. He's like, hey, can I please have something in this? And they're like, you know what, okay. It was a small role, and he got something. So 3 years before he became the Doctor, he got a nice uncredited role in this. And he actually had some things in Big Finish as well. Those, I think, were credited. And I think those were also mostly before he became the Doctor. So that's really fun. But so, the face, and you can see it when people put comparisons up, it is basically confirmed. This somehow canonizes Richard E. Grant as the one alternate version of the 9th Doctor, which is known as the Sauka Doctor among the fandom because, of course, it's cream of the Sauka. And that's just absolutely mind-blowing. Sorry that was the writers, Caden Briony. You can't just do this without getting permission from the top. There's no way they were able to get that unless it's something Rusty Davies wanted in the episode. So I just thought that was incredible that they threw something like that in.
Yeah, and we've not, at least I've not seen, I guess I've seen a scene or two, but I've not seen Stream of the Shauka. Certainly it's an interesting piece of history in Doctor Who, especially a couple of years before the revival starts up. So that will be interesting to watch once we happen to get to it. But I do find it interesting that they happen to just throw his face in there with all the others. And naturally, given all the discussion afterwards, we were not the only ones wondering, wait, who is that?
Yeah, and it's interesting because Richard E. Grant also did portray a version of the Doctor in The Course of the Fatal Death, which, if I'm not mistaken, was actually written by Stephen Moffat. The Course of the Fatal Death was a 1999 comedy thing in the UK. It's Rad North Day. It's telethon for, I think, children charity. I'm not sure on the specifics, but I know even this latest Sarah Jane Adventures, they had a Rad North Day minisode. Actually, now that I think about it, that minisode had the glorious title From Roxicala Falapatorius with Love, which is hilarious. They brought back the Sathine costumes and everything. It was like 7 minutes of glory. Now, The Course of the Fated Death was a Rad North Day 1999, again written by Stephen Moffat, and actually kind of does use some things that Moffat later brought back when he was showrunner. But aside from the main Doctor in that, there was in the Ninth Doctor, who was played by Rowan Atkinson. There was also Richard E. Grant, played a live action Doctor. Jim Broadbent played the Doctor. Hugh Grant and Joanna Lumley. So we get one of the earlier female Doctors. Now this thing is comedy, completely non-canon in any sense of the word. And some people are thinking, hey, maybe this is canonizing The Course of the Fatal Death. I think on the whole, if it was trying to canonize that, then it would have shown one of the other faces. And since it only showed Richard E. Grant, I think it's safe to say it's just canonizing in whatever canon means for Doctor Who, for the record. Because keep in mind, the Toymaker Society made a jigsaw of the Doctor's history. So, again, really at this point, anything's fine. But I think this really should just be seen as a canonization of Cream of the Sauka. Now, I'm not sure how that works. I'm not sure where that can possibly fit in. But there's even an 8th Doctor Adventure book, and I don't have the information on me, that made a reference to not only Rowan Atkinson's version of the Ninth Doctor, but also Richard E. Grant's version of the Ninth Doctor. Apparently a Time Lord is... Well, those books do all types of things which I can't even comprehend. So it's going to be fun when you actually read them. But there's apparently a reference to all 3 Ninth Doctors, and I think that was at the point when Christopher Eccleston had been announced as well. So that's fun. But I just think it's fascinating, and again, the fandom's going to be talking about this all week. I think this episode has 2 major things people are going to be talking about. Cream of the Sauka and Rogue, and really that's it. Now, that's not to say the episode's bad, but that really is all people are going to be talking about all week, I think.
Yeah, I will say, I do think the ending had a decent amount of emotional stuff going on. Long story short, basically, like James mentioned earlier, Rogue thought there was only one of these aliens here. It turns out there were, 5, 6 of them? I think 6. And the Doctor was able to reconfigure the trap to theoretically trap all 6. But through events he could control, one of the people who trapped happened to be Ruby. He thought Ruby was already killed and taken over by one of these aliens, which that in itself was emotional. He even flashes back to his conversation with Carla, Ruby's adopted mother, saying, hey, keep my daughter safe. The Doctor's like, got you, fam. And hey, he thinks that Ruby's actually been killed and he failed, all because he's going after some attractive guy. Great job, Doctor. I guess he had other concerns too. But long story short, it seems like he can either let Ruby... I'm not quite sure what that trap was supposed to do. I thought it was supposed to kill all of them, but that doesn't seem to be how Rogue treated it.
No. What the trap was supposed to do is the Doctor fixed it. Originally, it was going to just incinerate them, but the Doctor changed it. He changed the second species to the Doctor. He doesn't want to just murder them. Well, unless it's the 7th Doctor. He would have talked them into suicide. But no, it was supposed to transport them to some random uninhabited dimension, maybe not dimension, but some uninhabited world somewhere in the universe, where they couldn't harm anybody, but they would still be alive. That was the idea.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the idea is he could either send Ruby to the ethos or release them and get everybody killed by these aliens. And there's a pretty emotional scene. And like James said, Rogue was there. And I wasn't quite sure what Rogue was going to do. I thought I knew. I was wrong. But Rogue sort of sacrifices himself, so it takes Ruby's place and allows the Doctor to send everyone some other place. And that's why theoretically he could come back at some point. Honestly, even a single season from now might be too soon. But like I said, he had really good chemistry with the Doctor, so I wouldn't mind seeing him coming back. But it's just, I think the whole thing just comes back to just sort of awkward that, I mean, the Doctor had a long-standing sort of relationship with River Song and this random guy. It's just sort of strange to me. But that said, that emotional scene toward the end, I think gives more credence, not that we need any at this point, but to Gatwa's performance. He just has, some of these last couple of episodes, he's had a really strong performance. And I think this is pretty strong too. It might not be quite as fantastic as something like Boom or even the end of Dad and Babel, but I thought it was pretty strong.
And I think it's really strong too, because right before the guy disappears in this trap, he tells the Doctor, "Please try to find me," something to that nature. The Doctor is just kind of heartbroken. This guy who he connected with so quickly is just gone already from his life. And he just cries it out with Ruby, which again, Ruby says, hey, release some emotion, just don't be happy all the time, just let it go, basically. And he does, and they have a really nice moment together. And there was some discussion, maybe this is going to lead directly into the final two powder, and it didn't. So I was kind of thinking it might, but I guess past a certain point, it's obvious it probably wasn't going to go that route.
But that's sad. This episode, again, it was decent. I wasn't necessarily wowed by it. It was a perfectly fun, enjoyable time. Nothing special. This might be one of those controversial takes, those hot takes, but I enjoyed Dad and Babel more than this one. And I have to imagine that'll be a highly debated viewpoint. But that said, this is still a perfectly good episode. And just the chemistry between the Doctor and Rogue, I think, make it work out.
Yeah, I think one of the things to the detriment of this season has been because of the short amount of episodes, the episodes they've had have to pull more weight. And to me, at least, the feeling of the episodes of this season have been so all over the place. There's no consistency to me. We jump around from something super stupid like Space Babies, frankly. Again, I'm sorry, I didn't like it. No ounce of me liked almost any of that. We jump around from something like Space Babies to something campy in a different way, but much more enjoyable on the whole. The Davos Code, which jumps to a super serious, super dark Boom, which jumps to existential horror, which is basically rewritten anyway in terms of 73 Yard, jumping to bright and colorful, but with racism, with Dad and Babel, to what seemed like what originally I thought was going to be one of the most quote-unquote classic things this season. Just the Doctor dealing with these alien species, trying to have a plan. Only it's actually not character study, but it's, I would say, 70% focused on the Doctor and this character Rogue, and the quick growing relationship. And really the monsters should just kind of throw away in the end, which is fine. The aliens should always have to be the main focus. And it's always fine to have them just be a background thing. But I almost wonder this might have been better just without the aliens and maybe just focus on this with some other type of maybe smaller potential threat. I don't know. But it just to me feels like the consistency this season, because they have so little room to play around with, has been not very great. I'm not saying the season as a whole is bad, but consistency-wise, it feels very strange to me. And I'm not sure if you feel the same, Michael, but that's something I was thinking about basically once Rogue finished, and I was done pondering about the Saga Doctor.
Yeah, I mean, I think every season has like a black sheep out of the season, but this season seems to be like all over the place, like all of them are in a way black sheep. Like there's almost no consistent feel to it. I mean, there's consistent mysteries, but there's no consistent feel between the episodes, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does give a very disjointed feel to it. And I'm not sure what that would do. Like, for instance, 5 years from now, when we rewatch, or when anyone rewatches specific seasons, I'm not sure what that would do for rewatchability, but it certainly does feel a lot different than things that we've seen previously.
Yeah, and it might be completely unavoidable with the way they're doing the season. I don't know. But it's just something that I noticed and I thought was worth mentioning. The teasers for the next episode this season of Doctor Who have been impossible to glean anything from for me. I don't think I got anything from this upcoming teaser. I saw that Unit was coming back, which he kind of knew because we saw that way back when in the trailers for this season. So we see that Unit's coming back. We see that Marley's coming back. I think I saw her in the teaser.
Yeah, she was there.
So it's really nice.
Which I guess makes sense if Unit's coming back, Marlon's going to be there too.
Yeah, so that was really nice. Hypothetically, I think Unit hired Dana too. So I see no reason why Dana couldn't come back. Honestly, Kate was there in that circle of companions in the Power of the Doctor. So I don't know why she didn't just get everybody there. Get Perry back, bring Ace back, just hire all of them. Maybe all of them can be here. Maybe they can get Steven. I actually don't remember where Steven was left off. But nonetheless, they probably won't get Steven. I don't know, it's really nice to see Melanie come back. Just because I love any kind of nudity between the classic series and the new series. But yeah, there's been so many theories floating around for this episode. People have been saying Susan is coming back. People have been saying Sutak is coming back. People have been saying the one who waits is the Meep. People have been saying that, but they might as well be. There was a reference that Rogue makes in this episode. It seemed very offhand, but also very out of place as well, about some new boss he has. And people have been asking, hey, is that the same boss the Meep mentioned? And the answer, probably yes. I have a feeling we're not going to get answers to that this season, honestly. I think that's next season. But yeah, this episode, which is the Legend of Ruby Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, looks like it's going to be a hell of a ride. And I am so looking forward to it.
Yeah, like I said from the beginning, I've been curious about some of these answers for a long time now. I imagine we're going to be finally getting at least some basic answers on exactly what Susan Trist's character's been up to this whole time, or what she is. And yeah, I'm hoping it makes sense. Like, not everything has landed. Like, they never, to this day, I still don't quite know why the 14th Doctor was David Tennant again. I don't think they ever really explained that to my satisfaction. So
well, maybe not to your satisfaction, but Dana was saying, oh, the reason you changed your Facebook is because you wanted to come home to family or something like that.
Yeah, I don't buy it. I need some science behind that, bro. So I'm hoping that the solution they give is a bit more satisfying, and I think it will be. But, I mean, there's always that shroud of doubt, you never know. But I'm quite looking forward to it myself, yes.
Yeah, one thing I think is really awkward is, again, I think due to episode length, there's the whole big thing in Space Babies where Ruby made it snow. Then that was seen again in The Davos Code, seen again in Boom, and we haven't seen that since. We saw a small bit of it in 73 Hours, but that was rewritten, but we haven't seen that since. And I just think it feels awkward. We didn't even see anything like that here either. Even when she thought she was about to basically disappear into wherever this trap is going to send her, and she was tearfully telling the Doctor, it's okay, do it. There was no snow or anything. I'm not saying it needed to be there. I'm just saying we haven't seen snow in 3 episodes now. So it's funny that Ruby just brings it back randomly this episode. Oh, and I also have made it snow a couple of times to convince the Doctor that she is in fact Ruby and not one of these aliens. So I'm looking forward to them connecting all these pieces. And the best thing is, I don't think they're going to connect all of them. Not yet anyway, because I don't think this is going to involve Mrs. Flood. I think they're saving Mrs. Flood for next season as well. Because to be fair, we've only seen Mrs. Flood twice. Actually, in this season, technically only once, because I don't really count the Christmas special as an official part of the season, no matter how much Disney Plus wants to gaslight me otherwise.
And you could argue even in this universe, no times, because the one time we saw was in 73 Hours, which was an outer timeline that theoretically didn't exist anymore.
Oh yeah, well that's also true, which is awkward.
So you could argue that we haven't seen her anytime this season. But yeah, that's something they might hold back for a bit too.
But yeah, I guess one last thing before the episode ends. I'm sure everybody saw the news a few days back the actor who portrayed Ian Sasterton from, of course, the very first episode of the classic series, and one of the original 4 members of the TARDIS team, who I believe, he was the science teacher. And he also showed up in the Ava Manson Power of the Doctor, where he was in that circle that Kate was in as well. He passed away at the age of 99. So apparently in the UK, with this aired on, I don't know, BBC One Plus, whatever the online version of BBC is, that's where it's been airing in the UK. Of course, we watch it on Disney Plus. But this episode was apparently dedicated to William Russell, the actor who portrayed Ian, as well as sort of been. That was sad news. But apparently in Australia and in the US as well, we didn't get that dedication at the end of the episode. I don't know why that was cut or why that was changed, but we didn't get that dedication to William Russell, which is frankly terrible. But I guess there's probably nothing malicious about it, but it would have been nice to see that.
Yeah, it's quite disappointing, especially given his, I guess, addition of longevity to the series. I mean, in a lot of ways, Ian was almost more of a focal point in early Doctor Who than the Doctor was. Certainly, he was more likable of a character to most people.
Okay.
There are probably some old grouchy men like, I like that Doctor. He's a gold guy right there. But I imagine most people probably looked to Ian as like the almost stereotypical knight in shining armor type guy.
He was the designated hero with the way that the cast was set up at the time. He was the action hero. And then once he left, he was kind of replaced by Stephen, who was then the action hero because William Hartnell was kind of older, and so he couldn't be that type of action hero. So they had that role saved for Ian. And I mentioned in our discussion about An Unearthly Child, I really, really liked Ian in that story, and I really liked him throughout the entire run. I thought he was a great character. I've always loved his performance. And we should just never forget what William Russell brought to us in terms of that companion. I'd say he's maybe even, honestly, in the top 5 companions of our time for Doctor Who, just because of his mere importance and the characterization he had.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning, if you go back, we've spoken about An Unearthly Child before, but when you go back to the very first story in An Unearthly Child, it's Ian who stops the Doctor from bludgeoning this guy to death. And if that sounds shocking to you, it's a classic scene. It's certainly a sight to behold. I mean, talk about like almost a moral Santa.
Yeah, and Ian is, in fact, either the very first or the second person in the entire series who's named who speaks. Because the first conversation we see in the episode between named characters is between Ian and Barbara. And of course, also with the death of William Russell, the last remaining cast member of the original TARDIS crew who is still alive is Carol Ann Ford, who portrayed Susan. Which I think is, that's going to happen when people age. And the series started over 60 years ago, so it's understandable. But it would be really nice if they could get Carol Ann Ford back in Doctor Who, the mainline show, at least one more time. They were able to manage it with Ian, so I say they should do the same thing for Susan. So fingers crossed that Susan Trish, the Trish of the Aunt, blah, 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 they can play around with it however they want. It would be nice to see Carol back one more time.
Yeah, and with that said, let us know what you thought about Rogue. You can always comment down below or reach out to us on x/Twitter at Brothers Mahoney. But naturally, as always, this has been Michael.
And I've been James.
Thanks for listening, and we wish you all a pleasant night.